Hi there, Barry Eisler here with a few thoughts on writing. Talking to you from the fourth week of our Bay Area shutdown. Thank you, Amazon Publishing, for suggesting this. Being a shy and somewhat antisocial writer, I probably wouldn't have thought of it myself, but I think it's a great idea. I'm used to working at home, but I know it's a new experience for a lot of people. I've read some advice online about what to do now that we're all living in relative isolation. I think some of the advice has been good, some maybe less so. I would only add that with regard to any advice, whether it's on how to ride out a pandemic or how to write a novel or anything else, we should always keep in mind Bruce Lee's dictum, which is absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is uniquely your own. So when someone tells you you should be doing something, take that as an example of something they find useful and that you might find useful, but not necessarily. So if now seems like a good time for you to, learn Urdu as you've always promised yourself you would, or to finish all 6 volumes of the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, and you're up for that, go for it. But on the other hand, if you feel stressed, don't worry about just taking care of yourself in other ways and your family and your neighbors. That's important too. There's a lot going on. So what I thought I would do is read an excerpt from one of the books. The one I have in mind is The Killer Collective. Livia walked toward the side of the building. She heard someone get out of the van behind her. Carl, no doubt, but she didn't wait or look back. She turned the corner and headed down farther, then stopped and leaned against the wall. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. She'd felt sick for a moment in the van, but it was cool over here on the shadowed side of the building and quiet, and she started to feel better almost immediately. She heard Carl come around the corner. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "Hey," he said, "if you'd rather be alone, you know that's fine. I just wanted to check." For anyone else, the answer most certainly would have been, "Yes, go away." But Carl knew about her past. He knew her. She gave him a weak smile. "Thanks for checking on me. It's nice that you do that." And then her eyes filled up again, and she looked away, furious. For the most part, she was so in control of herself, and then a small thing would happen, and it would dissolve her. Carl said, "If you or anybody else, this would be the moment where I put my arms around you and hold you tenderly." She laughed and wiped her eyes. "It's a bad idea." "Would you mind terribly if I did it anyway, just to be sure?" She didn't know what she wanted, from him or anyone else. She wished for the 1,000th time that she could just be normal. He came over and brushed the back of his fingers against her cheek. "You know," he said, "I've never seen someone take control of that band of killers and cutthroats the way you just did. Please don't think I'm being condescending saying this, but you just made me so proud. I mean, Larison, I think he's in awe of you now. And Larison's the damn angel of death. He doesn't do awe, not in my experience." She laughed again and cried more. His fingers were curled against her cheek. "Labie?" She sniffed. "Yeah, I think you better hit me with one of those judo throws, because if you don't, I'm not going to be able to stop myself from kissing you." She shook her head. "It's a bad idea. Because we're in a Walmart parking lot? All the best romances happen in places like this. I read it somewhere once." She laughed. "You did not." "I did. Okay, I wrote it down first, then I read it. But still." She laughed again. She loved the way he made her laugh, but it also always made her sad. "I'm sorry I'm so weird," she said, her eyes filling up again. He shook his head. "You're not weird. You're beautiful." And he leaned in and kissed her very softly. It didn't bother her. It was actually nice. She liked the way he smelled, which only confused her and made her cry harder. He pulled back. Was it that bad? But he was wearing a cute, dopey smile, and she knew he was joking. It was nice, she said. Really? I honestly think that's the best thing I've ever heard. So Amazon Publishing suggested that I segue from here into a kind of writing prompt for anyone who's got some time on their hands and is looking to flex some writing muscles. And so here's what I'd suggest. Write a love scene, but write it between two characters who have very different expectations about what's going on here. If you were to draw a Venn diagram, the overlap would be their mutual desire. But the areas that didn't overlap would be almost everything else. Their worldviews, their formative experiences, their expectations, their motivations, their hopes, their fears, almost everything would be out of sync except that one thing, for how much they want each other. And see where that goes. If you do that, I think what you'll find is that it takes you away from the fraught and really frivolous tendency to do scenes that are too much tab A, slot B, too mechanical. And again, this isn't just true for love scenes. It's true for every scene, certainly for every kind of action scene. My books, I think it's fair to say, are known for their combat sequences, their hand-to-hand combat sequences, martial arts, that sort of thing. And to the extent I'm doing those scenes right, to the extent I'm doing my love scenes right, I think it's because, you want to get the mechanics right. If you don't, it would take someone out of the story. But what those scenes are really about is how the characters feel. It's a bit of a cliche, but like many cliches, it became a cliche because there's so much truth to it. It's don't describe the rain, describe the way the rain feels. And I really like that. So if you're writing an action scene, like a fight scene, how do the characters feel? Are they afraid? Are they adrenalized? Or like what's going through their minds in this extremely heightened, fraught moment of violence? And likewise, if it's a love scene and the two characters are on the verge of what T.S. Eliot in The Wasteland called the awful daring of a moment's surrender, which an age of prudence can never retract, what does that feel like? Worry about that. Focus on that. Don't focus so much about where the hands are and the feet are and anything else that's in the scene. That's necessary, but it's far from sufficient. So what you're looking for here is don't do a love scene that's like two characters sitting across the table in a romantic restaurant and it's candle lit and one character leans forward and says, "I love you, honey," and the other character says, "I love you too, honey," and then they go off and consummate their beautiful love. I mean, not that that's not a wonderful thing in the real world, but in a story it's just not workable. It's not interesting. So that's my writing assignment or writing suggestion. No assignments, certainly not these days, not from me. But give it a try. I think you might find it's fun and see where it takes you. If you want to talk more, I'm pretty findable on Facebook and Twitter. I tend to talk about politics probably too much in those media. And yes, I do know the definition of insanity is to talk about politics online, but there you go. That said, I'm willing to talk about most anything if you so desire. So look me up. Let's talk more. This was fun. APUB, again, thanks for suggesting it. Maybe we'll do it again. Good luck, everyone, riding this thing out. And again, definitely don't forget to take care of yourself and your family and your neighbors. Cheers.